It's no secret that I have been very critical of Wonderlands and its issues. After all, 5 out of my 6 videos about Wonderlands have been about what it needs to fix or just highlighting a big issue of the game. But for all the mistakes Gearbox made while developing Wonderlands, they did a lot of things right too. Hey everyone, I'm Constant Canadian and this is everything good about Wonderlands. Before we get into the video though, what is your favorite weapon in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, regardless of damage? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoy the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Starting off with something small, but very impactful, the character creation. The character creation engine in Wonderlands is super fun and leaves almost nothing to be desired. Being able to switch off symmetry and go absolutely nuts with your character is awesome. Also, playing around with the slider overdrive can bring hours of entertainment in of itself. The fact that I have spent upwards of 3 hours making a character, and only spent about 41 hours actually playing says a lot about how much fun creating a character in Wonderlands can be. Another really awesome thing about Wonderlands is all of the new maps. Every map in this game seems so completely different from one another, yet it's not in a bad way either. It's just that every map in Wonderlands feels super unique and special. My personal favorite is the Osu Gold Necropolis, but every map is beautiful and well designed. Honestly, you don't really get a sense for how amazingly designed these maps are until you start searching every corner of them for collectibles. But once you do, it's crazy to see how many areas that I expected to just be completely walled off have a purpose and actually be designed as opposed to just an empty room with a collectible. Map design is something that Gearbox has done pretty well in the past with Borderlands 2 and 3, but the map design in Wonderlands really takes the cake. Something that Gearbox did a way better job of in Wonderlands than in previous games is legendaries, in a sense anyway. Legendaries in Wonderlands feel a lot more unique than they have in previous games. In Borderlands 2 and 3, a lot of legendaries were just regular guns with a weird fire pattern or a huge buff to a certain stat. That isn't the case in Wonderlands though, where almost every legendary is its own thing. You've got a spell that shoots a jello cube, a melee weapon that's just a fish to smack people with, and even a handheld cannon. Like a literal cannon that shoots cannonballs. Now that does raise the issue of course that drop rates could be better and that a lot of the weapons need a buff, but I can say without a doubt that the legendaries in Wonderlands feel more unique than any other games in the entire franchise. When Gearbox finally does get around to buffing up a lot of their weapons, then Wonderlands will finally take the cake for me in terms of legendaries. A game's endgame is incredibly important for its lifespan and longevity. Without any endgame, the game is fun for a bit, but with a decent endgame loop, a game can be fun for years or even forever. Borderlands 2 had next to no endgame at launch, and Borderlands 3 also struggled with endgame content at launch. Thankfully, Gearbox seems to have gotten that right this time around. Wonderlands has an endgame, and it had one at launch. I know a lot of people, myself included, have been very critical of Wonderlands' endgame and its lack of traditional farming, but there is nobody who can say that Wonderlands did not have an endgame at launch, because that just isn't true at all. While the endgame isn't widely accepted as the best in the series, at least players have something to do while we wait for new content and hopefully a change to the respawning mini-bosses. I think we all knew this part was coming, right? I mean, it's probably the best part of Wonderlands. Of course I'm talking about the story. After the disappointment of Borderlands 3's story, it was such a relief to have a fun and engaging story this time around. The story of Wonderlands really feels special, well thought out, and it has just the right amount of similarities to Borderlands 2 to be absolutely amazing to play through multiple times. Gearbox did a really good job with the story of Wonderlands. Everything from the intensity, to the humor, to the casting is absolutely perfect. And honestly, there's not much more I can say here that hasn't already been said. Wonderland's story is amazing. Expanding on one of my previous points regarding to the endgame, the raid bosses are pretty spectacular this time around. Now I'll come right out and say it, I hate the fact that they're only able to be summoned through the chaos chambers, but they are a hell of a lot of fun. The fact that the game uses a sigil puzzle to prep you for their mechanics is super awesome, and honestly at no point did I ever feel like the fight was completely unfair. I know that raid bosses are meant to be challenging, but they definitely shouldn't have unavoidable novas, or immunity phases out the wazoo, or attacks that knock you flying out of the arena for no reason. That's what makes the raid bosses in Wonderlands feel so awesome. They're tougher, but not complete BS. And they're straight up some of the best in the entire franchise. As has been the case since Borderlands 3, I would love some standalone raid bosses, especially if they're going to be as well designed as they were with the original 4.